Hello everyone and welcome to the Green Business Owner web class on raising capital. We encourage this session to be highly interactive, so be prepared with your questions, pop them into the chat box, or click on the icon to raise your hand at the top of the screen. In today's class we're going to cover the top 10 sources of capital, including the benefits and drawbacks of each, and strategies that you can use to go about acquiring that capital. And in collaboration with a firm called Cutting Edge Capital, greenbusinessowner.com has produced this downloadable e-tool entitled Raising the Capital Your Business Needs. You may choose to use this as a resource every time you need to get capital. It's listed in the publications section of our website. If you go to greenbusinessowner.com and click on publications, you'll see it under the eTools and Downloads site. It's also not necessary to follow along during this class with this e-tool. We're going to refer to it a couple of times, but it's also not totally necessary to follow along. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started by looking at the top 10 sources of capital for businesses and discussing some of the benefits and the drawbacks of each. We'll go through this section and then pause for questions afterwards. But feel free, if you have a question on a particular slide, you can also write something in the chat box or raise your hand by clicking on that icon at the top. Okay, so we're going to go through these top 10 slide by slide. I just want to sort of give you the spectrum. So at the top of this spectrum is typically the more common and the more easier to acquire sources of capital. At the bottom of the spectrum are the greater sums of money that are harder to get, and rarer for that matter. Okay, so let's start with bootstrapping. This is perhaps the most common form of funding for small business. This diagram in particular that you're seeing on your slide is from our e-tool and explains the process of bootstrapping. The concept is that you start off really small and continually reinvest your profits into growth. It's not so much fundraising as it is more of a strategic plan, but the bottom line is that you don't have to go out and find a pile of money somewhere to go ahead and get started. You just sort of start and then ramp up from there. The example we posted here is a simple one. Someone wants to start a restaurant, but the process of bootstrapping gets them by helping them start by creating one item, say it's a salsa or a hummus, whatever it is, that they then sell either through friends or family, their network, or at a farmer's market, for example, until they have enough money to expand that product line, maybe creating a second salsa or whatever it is. As they increase their offerings and hopefully their profits, they're building a client list, but that's a secondary value. Eventually, they invest in better equipment, such as catering equipment or maybe even a mobile food truck. As they grow, eventually they have enough profits to start a brick-and-mortar restaurant, and at the same time, they have a built-up client list, which is kind of nice. So bootstrapping is extremely popular. It's very low risk, you can start with almost nothing, and you can get to where you want to go. It just takes some time. Okay, the next avenue, and perhaps the second most common, is through personal loans by friends and family.